Good morning. I'm MJ from Lioness Publications. And this morning we're going to look at Maria Machado's chart. We're going to look specifically at some of her natal angles, and then we're going to look at what was happening when she got the Nobel Peace Prize. And she is the opposition leader in Argentina, and on Friday she got the Nobel Peace Prize. So let's start off first with her natal chart. And a few things I want to talk about, four pieces here, four configurations, and then we'll move on to her transits. The first thing we want to talk about is Uranus opposing her wounded warrior. And this is the wounded revolutionary. So typically with people like this, they may end up with this type of angle. They may actually end up being in exile. They may end up being betrayed. So their wounds are typically associated with, in effect, their being against the government, a revolutionary. Now, she is a lightning rod, and in her case, she's demanding freedom, but she also clings to her pain. And that pain is important because that pain she's able to project to the country of Argentina. So, but the manner of her speaking may be very decisive. So her pain is what she's using to, in effect, rally up, among other things, the people of her country. Now, she has to, and part of this Uranus opposing the wounded warrior is you have to point out injustice. And their pain actually ends up being a catalyst in what they're doing. So in her case, she's able to not so much transfer, but use that pain she has as a pain for all the people in Argentina. Next thing she has is Mars squaring Pluto. This is a configuration that happens in people that are fighters, they're warriors. And you'll see it a lot in people in the military, in people that, are policemen, are firefighters, people that face danger. But you'll also see it in people that cause danger. You'll see it in murderers. You'll see it in terrorists. So it takes a look at the entire chart to see how it works out. Whether it's someone we would identify for being on a good cause or a bad cause. Now, with this, she's going to have a will to survive. And like I said, she's a fighter. She's not going to be a negotiator. People that have this configuration will try to assert control by provoking, by confrontations, and by manipulation. So they can do it in a way that goes for a cause, or they can do it in a cause greater than them, or they can do it for a cause that is themselves. So there's a little difference in how they're trying to assert this control. Now, typically people with this type of configuration may have gone through oppression and trauma. So they tend to fight because they have been in positions where they have had to fight. They have the capability to rebuild from the ashes. So this is not a task that's daunting to them. They feel that this would be their purpose, to build up a system. Now, an issue here can be projection, where you mirror the forces that you're trying to, in effect, resist. So sometimes when you have a bad government and, let's say, good revolutionaries, what happens is the good revolutionaries start to become like the bad government. So it's because sometimes to get things done, you move towards actions that you were against. And I just want to bring up a note that this is one book that delves into some of this. And this is The Tragic Mind, and it's by Robert D. Kaplan. It's not a thick book. It's very small. But it goes into some of the stuff that sometimes life isn't fair and bad things happen. And sometimes good people do bad things. So I'm not promoting it. I'm just noting it. I don't get any money. Okay. It's just a book I read that I thought was good. So let's take a look at another angle that she has, and that's Jupiter squaring Neptune. Jupiter, the opportunities versus what here? Or the difficulty in our visions. So, yeah, she has visions that, for her country that are incredible. But her ideals start to collide with the truth. Are they ideals that can be implemented? Maybe not. Politicians are always dreamers, but how are they dreaming? Are they dreaming possible dreams? Or are they dreaming impossible dreams? So possible versus impossible. The square is saying here it's difficult. Okay. She's driven by a grand vision, but she'd really struggle to be able to follow through to implement it. And that's a pity. If this was a more easier angle, she'd be able to drive her vision and actually implement it. So reality, in effect, fails to match her vision. So the reality as it is means her political vision may not be able to be implemented. Now, some of this is associated with self-deception. So she's not being truthful with herself. Now, people with this angle can inspire devotion. So there is magnetism. Whenever you have Neptune flagged in a chart, there's magnetism. Okay? In this case, she inspires people, but she doesn't give them actionable items. So it's like, yes, we love what she's saying, but then she doesn't say how to get there. Okay. Next thing we have in the chart is Mercury in conjunct Saturn. This is it's Mercury, speech, voice, plans in conjunct, can't get here to can't get there from here. And what's that? It's in effect the guardrails, the structure of what we want in our lives. In this case, she's going to be the type of person that will think and structure and then speak what she says. And this is typically under pressure. So she's not the type of person that will just come out and say things. She actually has to think it through in her head. She has to structure how she wants to say it, and then she'll say it. And the reason for this is she would have a fear of misstating something when she's speaking. So she would be very clear, or try to be very clear and prepared. There's also a fear of consequences if she says something incorrect. Now think of this as, in effect, an internal negotiation. She's actually internally saying to herself, should I say this? Now, I want to, before we get to what was happening at the time of her getting the Nobel Peace Prize, I want to come back when she got it. She actually said something that was, to me, I'm still trying to decipher it. And what she actually said was, I dedicate this prize to the suffering people of Venezuela and to President Trump for his decisive support of our cause. Would it not have been better for her to say the people of the United States for support of the cause? She actually gave President Trump a gift here. Yeah. When I saw this last night, I said, whoa. And what did Trump do? He used it. He used it really well. He came back and said that she will accept the award in his honor. Now, why do people do things like this? I personally think she would have been better off not saying that. But sometimes you have to say, okay, maybe there's a lesser evil. That's not the evil that I'm facing. So she made some choices here when she said that. And some of that is sort of noted in this book. Choices that we make when we speak or when we rationalize things. So she needs the support of what? Of someone like Trump. So she played into what he wanted. Now, let's take a look at one last thing, and that is what was happening at the time that she got the prize. Now, I'm using a different type of, I'm not using the chart to illustrate this. What I'm using instead is just sort of a form showing when an angle became exact and sort of the time leading up to it. So what we see is that we have the angles noted on the right side, left side of the page. Then we have a series of dots, and then we'll have either like a a right pointing arrow or bracket, or a left pointing arrow, and then an asterisk. The asterisk is when the angle actually is exact. And the other sort of pointing brackets are indicating when it's sort of coming in that you're going to start to see the influence. So, and this is broken up into both September and October. September will be from 1 to 30, and then October is again shown as the next 1 to 30. So let's take a look at two of the angles here, and I've circled them. You've got Jupiter trying Neptune. This is her opportunities for what? Revision. Oh my God. Now, if you look, that's actually exact right around, I'm looking at the asterisk on that line, and it's going to be right around October 1st. Yeah. And that would have been, in effect, pretty much when she's going to be getting the prize, which turned out to be on the 10th. Okay. What else do we have? We have Saturn conjunct the wounded warrior, and that's what the chi is here. When was this pretty much exact? Right around the 10th or 11th. So Saturn is what? That focus on her pain. Pain of what? Exile. Now, she's getting the Peace Prize. She got the Peace Prize because of what she's doing to promote peace. She didn't get it because she achieved it. And that's something I think to think about. So she didn't achieve peace. She's fighting for it. She's fighting for the ideals of democracy. But it wasn't achieved. And I leave you just with those thoughts. Have a good day. Thank you for watching. Bye now.